welcome back. This is another video for the series for our hiker terms and lingo. This is Thanksgiving weekend here in Canada, so I'd like to wish a happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. I know it'll be past by the time this actually gets posted, but happy Thanksgiving. So today we're going to cover some blazes. There are multiple types of blazes and colored blazes. I'm going to throw in a few other terms and lingo as well. So if you're not sure what a blaze is, on the Appalachian Trail, it's actually going to be, I think it's 2 by 6, 2 inches by 6 inches, I think. Anyways, it's just a paint mark, a white paint mark on the trees, and we follow them the whole way from Georgia to Maine. Sometimes they're on trees, sometimes they're on rocks. Depends on the terrain that we're walking in right at the moment. So that's what a blaze is. So basically it's a marker that we follow to keep us on the trail so we don't get lost. I will be following a white blaze, so a white marker the whole way from Georgia to Maine, like I stated. Okay, so now that you know what a blaze is, the next blaze that I can think of would be the blue blaze. And a blue blaze is most generally marking a side trail. So like a side trail to go to town, to resupply or whatnot, or maybe even a blue blaze just to a shelter that I'm going to stay at. So that's what a blue blaze is. So the third blaze would be a yellow blaze, and of course it would be marked on the trees and the rocks just the same as the others, but it would be yellow. It's usually a marker headed to like it's a shortcut basically. So on the AT sometimes it could be like a roadblock. It would take you to a road and you would walk that roadblock instead of going like up a mountain, so you were cutting that out. So that's a yellow blaze. So it's basically a shortcut. And just to let you know, I don't plan on taking any yellow blazes. Next up would be aqua blazing. It is what it sounds like. So there are a few spots on the Appalachian Trail that you can jump in a canoe and paddle across the lake to get to the other side and step onto the trail. Again, I will not be doing aqua blazing. I don't plan on doing any aqua blazing anyway. And then there's the more interesting blazing, and it is called pink blazing. So this is when a hiker adjusts his speed, I say his, it could be his or her speed, to accommodate to hike with someone that they have an interest in. So they may slow down or speed up to try to keep up with this person because they have an interest in them, and that's pink blazing. So because we're talking about these blazes and the shortcuts, I also wanted to define what a purist is, and a purist would be a hiker that plans on hiking from Georgia to Maine or whatever trail they're hiking from the one end to the other, and they are not taking any shortcuts. So if they get off trail to go to town for lunch, for a hostel that night or whatever, they get back on trail to the exact same spot and keep on going. So they're connecting their footprints. So they have connected footprints from one end to the other, and that is a purist. So number 7 for hiker terms would be backcountry. It's kind of a familiar word around here. It's usually a spot that you have to hike out to stay, like at a campsite or whatever, and it's primitive. There might be an outhouse, there might not be, but it's usually out somewhere where you can't get a truck or a 4-wheeler to, but that's what they mean by backcountry. You might even see it here on the Canadian websites, like for the Fundy National Park. They do have a couple of primitive campsites, so that's what that means. Number 8 is hike your own hike. So if I want to hike my hike as a purist and connect on my footsteps, then that's what I'm going to do. If I want to aqua blaze, then that's what I'm going to do. You are going to do whatever you want to do to be happy on the trail. So it's a long time to be out there alone, and you know, you don't want to be just doing something with your group that you're hiking with because they're doing it, even though you really would rather, you know, maybe take the canoe across the lake, but they want to hike the mountain, or vice versa. So basically, hike your own hike to keep yourself happy. It's a long, long time on the trail. Number 9 you might hear is FKT. You won't hear this from me. It stands for fastest known time. I am not going to be attempting any fastest known times, but it does get thrown around sometimes. So it's basically a recorded fastest known time on that trail. And people do this multiple ways. They do it like I'm doing. You carry all your gear on your back and you go. And there are also others that do it with support. So they would have someone sitting somewhere to meet them, and they would have all their food and their nutrition, and if they needed first aid or whatever, and they would help them that way. And then once they were done there, then they'd go. So there's all different kinds of ways to do that. But anyways, again, you're not going to hear it from me. It's not something that I'm interested in. I'll be lucky to finish in the 5 to 6 months. So number 10 is very important. It's leave no trace, LNT. I'm going to do a whole separate video on this because it is extremely important. But leave no trace it's basically leaving the spot or the woods just like it was when you entered it. And this means, you know, packing everything out, leaving no garbage, things like that. But I will get into that one on a separate video because it is important and I want to elaborate on that. So number 11 is a shakedown hike, and that just means that I would take all of my gear that I plan on taking, putting it on my back and going for an overnighter or just a short hike like 2 or 3 days or whatever, and trying out all my gear to make sure that everything that I've selected is going to work for me, or if there's something that I might want to change out. I'm sure that there's probably going to be some things that I might want to change out just because there's a variance of temperature changes. I mean, I'm starting in Georgia, technically in their winter, but it's really nothing compared to what we have here in Canada for winter. But it's still cold, still get snow. You're going to be in the Smokies. It'll be cold there. So I want my warmer stuff, like my warmer sleeping pads, my warmer clothes. And then I'll be hitting like Hot Springs and then into Virginia. And I believe in Virginia is probably when most of my stuff will be switched out. So I've gotten off track, but a shakedown hike, that's what it is. It's just to make sure that everything works and before you hop on trail. So number 12 is a pack shakedown. A pack shakedown, I've never had one. I plan on having one when I get there. There's a few spots that do them in the gear stores. So they would just take my backpack, empty it out, and go through it and tell me, you know, hey, you don't need this, or you don't need this. Just trying to get my backpack weight down. So the less weight, of course, obviously it's easier for the hike. So I do have someone I'm going to do a virtual shakedown with. He hiked the AT, I want to say 2022. I can't remember now. I think it's 2022, but I'll put it here if I'm wrong. So anyways, but I reached out to him and he offered to do one virtually. So that would be immensely helpful. So right now, I think my pack with water and everything is around, I want to say 28 to 30 pounds, depending on how much water I need to carry and how much food I'm carrying. That's typically what I carry here, but I think it's going to be less on the Appalachian Trail because I can actually go in town much more often. So if I was doing a 4-day trip here in New Brunswick, my pack would probably start out at 30 pounds. That's with water and food. Whereas on the AT, sometimes I'm going to get away with 2 days. I could be in town the next day. So that'll cut down. Plus, when I'm hiking here, I always carry too much food. So I need to get that straightened out as well. And then number 13 would be the bubble. You always hear about the bubble, and that is basically where the largest group of hikers are. So typically the bubble starts mid-March to April 1st. That's typically where they start. But the bubble is a group of people that have scheduled to start the trail at the same time, like I said, between mid-March to April, and they continue hiking on, and it usually gets dispersed as time goes on because the faster hikers go ahead and then the slower hikers, you know, follow behind, and it gets dispersed, but they still, like, that's the main bubble. So that's all I have today, and I hope you've learned something so that when I'm out there hiking and I mention mention one of these, that it will help out. And I want to thank you for watching. Bye.